Welcome back to 1834 Restoration House. Today we're coming to you from the historic Gosnell Cabin in Malden, South Carolina. Now I've wanted to make this video for a long time because it's kind of a history mystery. So my question today for you is, what does a Christmas flower, a bridge, and a log cabin have in common? Stay tuned and find out. This cabin is 200 years old, and even though it sits in the parking lot of the Malden Cultural Center, you can only see it twice a year when they open it up for events. But this 200-year-old cabin didn't come from Malden. That's part of the mystery. So where did it come from? The history of the Gosnell cabin originates 200 years ago. The cabin, with original dimensions of 25 by 18 feet, was built out of 12-inch thick by 8-inch wide beams of heart pine, and it was Gresham Callahan who was the first inhabitant of the Gosnell log cabin. The cabin initially started in the Cherokee Indian style of construction and was finished using the English method. In other words, the cabin was begun by an Indian, but finished by a white man. Also, the cabin originally had a dirt floor that was later jacked up and a wooden floor was added. Gresham Callahan first appeared in the record books on the 1810 census. This indicates that he was a resident of Greenville County after 1800, but before 1810. Apparently, Mr. Callahan had a number of different monikers, one of which was Old Indian. The cabin was originally located in northern Greenville County. At some point, ownership of the cabin passed to John H. Goodwin. In 1875, John Goodwin sold the cabin and 300 acres to Reverend John Jack Gosnell for $351. 3 generations of Gosnells lived in the cabin until 1941. The Boy Scouts bought the property for a camp in 1927. The last member of the Gosnell family to live in the cabin, Luther Gosnell, served as the caretaker of the property until his death in 1941. The name the Boy Scouts used for the new camp was derived from Gresham Callahan. The name chosen was Camp Old Indian. In 1928, Luther's wife, Lizzie, died of measles while sitting in a chair in front of the fire. One of Luther's uncles had a leg amputated here on the kitchen table, but it's been said that the table was removed from the house before the leg was amputated. Now, Luther himself was an epileptic. One night, he's sitting in his chair in front of the fire when he had a seizure. His legs convulsed violently and ended up landing in the fire. They found him 3 days later, still alive, but badly burned and suffering from gangrene. They took him to the hospital where he died. Luther worked as a stonemason, but he was rumored to be a moonshiner and a bootlegger. It's interesting that he was known to feed his family cornmeal and water, which oddly enough are the ingredients used to make moonshine liquor. If you watched our previous videos, you know that this is called chinking, and this is how they stuffed the airspace between the logs. But back in the old days, they didn't have chinking in here when this cabin was originally built, and there were many stories about snakes, bears, and panthers that tried to get in to eat the little girls that lived inside the cabin. So, wisely, they went ahead and chinked it up. After years of disuse, the cabin fell into a state of disrepair. 3 men from Malden saw this, and they made arrangements to take the cabin apart and bring it down here and put it back together on the grounds of the Malden Cultural Center, where it sits today. So what does all of this have to do with a bridge and a Christmas flower? To find out, we have to go up to Traveler's Rest. As the young state of South Carolina started to grow, there became more of a desire to build a road between South Carolina and North Carolina, more specifically Greenville and Asheville. So a man named Joel Poinsett hatched an idea of building a highway across the mountains. This bridge right behind me here was part of his highway and is the only intact portion of it that still stands today. The road we came up here was roughly the same alignment as the original highway here, but it had to turn across this highway and head that way.
Now let's cross the bridge. Can you imagine how many hundreds of people have crossed this bridge? Look at that stonework. Isn't it incredible? It's lasted so many years. All right, we are across the bridge. Isn't that a gorgeous sight? Everybody swings the camera that way, and then the video quits. We're not. There's a path. Let's find out where it goes. Come on. Wonder how long this trail is. This is the old Poinsett Highway, believe it or not. And it used to go from Greenville, South Carolina, up to Asheville, North Carolina. It's hard for me to imagine this used to be a road because it's very narrow now, but vegetation does take over. A few adventurous people have gone up the hill. All right. It looks like this goes right back up to the main road. Poof. There's a lot of mosquitoes out here today. But I put my bug spray on, so hopefully we don't get any mosquito bites. Okay, and we're back at the main road. It looks like it may have gone off that way, and they've rerouted everything from this point.
For those of you in this area, you know what this bridge looks like. But for the rest of you who don't live here, let's take another look at it from down below.
Joel Poinsett was the architect and designer of the bridge behind us. Thus the reason they named the highway after him, which we were just on. That log cabin that we saw previously was actually here, somewhere on this site, and they used it as a construction headquarters when they were building this bridge.
From this vantage point, the Poinsett Bridge is right behind you. Now the road that came to the bridge used to come from there, and it went up that way, turned around in a curve, and then came out over there. Eventually the road was replaced with this new stretch of highway here, and it was cut off. After the construction of the bridge, the cabin ended up here at the Boy Scout camp, where it remained for many years, finally falling into disrepair, and then a group of men arranged to take it down to Malden and restore it. At this point, our microphone stopped working, but a couple of young men from the camp came out to see what we were up to, and we got to talking with them, and they told us about another bridge that most people don't know about. So here at an undisclosed location, you can see this bridge behind me. It looks like it was built at the same time as the Poinsett Bridge, or very close to it. And the theory is that this may have been part of the old highway as well, or maybe a practice project where the masons were practicing their craft. So here's a view of the bridge, or whatever this thing is. It's really hard to tell, but I'm on the back side here looking at it. You can see there's a small hole there where the water can pass through. So it probably wasn't used for holding water back, but one of the theories is that this may have been a practice bridge before building the big bridge. It certainly has their signature on it. Back at the cabin, we talked about the Callahan family, which originally built the house, and here is the actual marker of where the Callahan family is buried. We're at an undisclosed location way up in the mountains, not too far away from the bridge, and here it is, right here. So what is the connection with the Christmas flower? Well, Joel Poinsett served as a minister to Mexico on behalf of the United States. Today we call that an ambassador. Well, Joel Poinsett found this really amazing plant, which he brought back to the United States, consisting of green leaves and around Christmas time, brilliant red leaves. This plant was named the poinsettia.